October 2019, the pilot for Hazbin Hotel popped off on YouTube. August 2020 was the year Hazbin Hotel was picked up by A24. 2022, we got monthly drops of updated character designs. March 2023, Season 1 wrapped up its production and was supposed to air that following summer, but for reasons varying from supporting the writer's strike to the show still in the process of being shopped around to different streaming services, it was delayed. December 2023 dropped a teaser trailer announcing the show's arrival to be January 19th, 2024 on Amazon Prime. So after years of waiting, anticipating, fans surviving off of headcanons, fan art, comics, theories, live streams, and hell of a boss, it's finally here. Hazbin Hotel, and it was awesome! What do you mean awful? Bro, the characters? Super fun. The songs? Awkward. The writing? Well, I got nothing. Hey now, you two. Instead of ripping each other apart, how about we break down each episode and Heart can speak on what she liked while Clover critiques what could have been improved. How does that sound? Fine. Yay! I'm sure by the end of the review, we'll figure out exactly how we really feel about the show. While it should not be required viewing, I did give the pilot a rewatch, same as I did for the Helluva's first season review. I say it shouldn't be required viewing since the show itself makes loads of references and retellings of the pilot. Just like how it starts with the visuals, using cutout or paper puppet animation that visualizes the tragedies of Hell's populace being slaughtered, and Charlie, the princess of Hell, helplessly watching and unable to reason with heaven's higher-ups to stop the annual cleansing of sinners to make room in Hell. This, by far, is the best example and use of show don't tell in all of Hazbin Hotel and even Hell of a Boss. What happened? No, like, genuinely, because compared to the series, it's all talk, no show. But we'll get there. We meet foul-mouthed fan favorite Angel Dust after completing a quickie job and gets thrust into a fight to help his friend Cherry Bomb against Serpentius. The demons are fighting over territories, which seems to be the chaotic norm post-exterminations. Out with the old and in with the new. Meanwhile, Charlie's preparing to present her dream project to broadcast to all of Hell. I loved how Charlie gave her pitch with confidence, but slowly loses it when no one seems to be responding, and it gets worse after her song, which is about how every demon has a rainbow inside them, meaning they all have a bit of good somewhere deep down inside. Just gotta get it out there in order to get to heaven. Upbeat song, fun visuals, but a bit hard to understand at the end, but gets the point across, while also displaying the different beings that reside in Hell. But for the life of me, I can't tell the difference between Hellborns and sinners based on designs alone. Well, I sure hope that the main series can clarify that, she said disdainfully. Even if Charlie went off script, despite Vaggy's best effort, the girlfriend of which they have much better chemistry here than the whole series, honestly. It didn't change the outcome that their star patronage is in a bloody brawl and causes Charlie to start a fight at the news station herself, which brings up the question of what happens when they die. Not exactly sure how permadeath works yet, or if it's possible if sinners can kill each other for good. Oh well, I'm sure that the main series will give us an in-universe answer to that, and people won't assume that they just regenerate based on the wikis and whatever livestream said, she said sarcastically. They all return to the hotel with Vaggy rightfully pissed, Charlie feeling defeated, and Angel joking around but almost reaches out to comfort Charlie, showing that he is capable of caring for others and therefore becoming a better person, but lacks the confidence or right push to do so, leaving the audience wanting to see more of this character's growth. Boy, I can't wait to see how Angel Dust grows and develops as a character in the main series, she said flippantly. After leaving her busy mother a pitiful voicemail that reassured her father's doubts in her, enters Alistair, the radio demon, a dangerous overlord that toppled the most powerful of his rank. He wishes to help Charlie's hotel, but as a form of entertainment for himself, just to watch others fail at bettering themselves. I'll be honest, I never liked Alistair's reasoning for being at the hotel. It feels more like an excuse to have a silly little threatening demon man there for shits and giggles. But hey, maybe he'll do more than just watch everyone else fail. Perhaps he'll tempt Angel into slipping back into old habits, or actually help the hotel. The possibilities are there, she said disappointedly. With with him brings along Nifty, a neat freak, and a gambling old drunk that answers to Husk. It's the very tail end of the pilot to be introducing more characters, but at least they're shown to be there for a purpose. Nifty's affinity for cleaning suits her for the role of the maid, while Husk, having been pulled from a poker game, will man the front desk that's also a bar. They're here to play supporting roles, and I can get behind it. That's all fine and dandy, so long as the main series can keep its focus on the core cast of 6, with some expected reoccurring side characters to come along. It should be a nice balance and not feel overcrowded at all, she said furiously. We get a quick song of Alistair both encouraging but also mocking Charlie's dream before Snake Boy comes back to crash the party. Alistair shows off his crazy power of appropriation, and then they all return to the hotel with a sense of a new beginning. For a pilot made by a small but mighty team, it definitely wears its passion on its sleeve. Although the sound effects are excessive and distracting, which I do hope get toned down in the full series, she said happily. I mean, they're still prominent, but not every character's movement is followed by an obnoxious sound effect fighting for your ears along with the dialogue and background music. Alistair uses veves, which are usually used to call upon spirits in voodoo, a close practice that is often depicted as evil when it's actually usually quite positive. I touched on that a bit in my stand-up video and plan to do a full discussion on Alistair in the future, because cultural appropriation aside, I just do not care for this man, and not in the same way that I hate, capital H, hate Stolas. I do not care about Alistair. Dear Alistair fans, because I know there's a lot of you, I'm sorry, he's just not for me. And that's fine, that's my opinion, and you're in your right to disagree with that, or agree with me for finally breaking the shackles and being able to say it. Say what we're all thinking! He's overrated! So, from what I can assess from the pilot, I understand that Hell is overpopulated, and Charlie, despite being born and raised in Hell, has a bleeding heart that wants to redeem sinners to get them into heaven in order to save them from the annual exterminations. With the help and support of her girlfriend and now Hell's most powerful overlord, as well as his slaves, her dream feels one step closer into becoming a reality. If she can at least redeem Angel Dust, despite him staying at the hotel for the free room and being a foul-mouthed, trigger-happy, horny sinner, he has the potential of growing if Charlie goes about it the right way. Because you can't force someone to change if they don't want to. Showcasing the benefits of heaven and redemption could encourage him to change, but then again, why go clean to be a better person for heaven versus enjoying the carefree chaos of hell? But it can also be dangerous, making deals with overlords and becoming their slaves like Nifty and Husk. So again, redemption seems to be the best alternative to a sinner's safety. Despite its poor world building so far, the pilot had me interested in this universe, Charlie's cause, and if she can even make the slightest of difference. Even if I feel it was giving rich girl helping the poor energy, because if Charlie fails, everything kind of just goes back to the same way it was with the exterminations and her father not believing in her. For as much as I know Charlie is doing this for a good cause that could reshape the very foundations of heaven and hell, it's also so she can get daddy's approval and hopefully mother will pick up the phone. Just a hunch. But I'm so glad we can finally see this journey actualized in the series, among other several things. First episodes always have a rough start. They're meant to welcome us into this new world and characters that inhabit it, and with that comes expected exposition. But bruh. Overture is the most boring episode of Hazbin Hotel, or so far. All it does is yap about so much stuff that's not relevant to the premise of the series. We get a 2-minute long exposition dump in the form of the cutout animation about heaven, creation, first man and woman, Lucifer being denied helping the other angels because of his new, young, wild dreams were too dangerous for the olden ways of the elders. And on top of that, Lilith rebelling against Adam, falling in love with Lucifer, the two offering Eve the apple, yada yada yada, brief summary of Genesis. Humans now know too much, and for that, the lovers were banished to the hell that they've created in the aftermath. Where Lucifer felt defeated, Lilith thrived and became queen boss bitch down there with her songs. But heaven wasn't having any of that, and thus the annual exterminations were born. Much later, they had a daughter to carry on Queen Baddie's dreams. I'm sorry, it's genuinely, but what does any of this have to do with redeeming sinners to get them into heaven because of hell's overpopulation problem? From this storybook alone, it seems that heaven is unreasonable and not one for second chances, based on how they treated Lucifer and Lilith. And while I do appreciate the attempt of world building here, it just seems like a lot to be given all at once, especially the first 2 minutes of the series. And again, what happened to the overpopulation issue in Hell? Now it's a power issue? How does Hell having a large population impact Heaven in any way, since most demons don't even bother or can't access it? You know what? Let me take a step back from this before I really start to get a headache, because this just kills the original premise of the series. Much like with Hell of a Boss, foregoing the main plot that got most people interested in the show, this Heaven versus Hell idea, for the first season no less, is not what they signed up for nor supported the series for so long, at least not for me. I'm sure others would enjoy this and it's a nice surprise, but it's not exactly what was promised from the pilot. In a day and age where shows throw out redemption arcs like their Union Wafers, an entire series set in Hell questioning the foundations of who or what even qualifies one for redemption or damnation was genuinely fascinating and could have sparked so much nuanced conversations and discussions that criticizes the very foundation of the faith that the world is based on. Not the trade-off I'd go with, but it's only fair to let them cook and see where it takes us. For goodness sake, I've barely scratched the surface of this episode, and there's already so many issues sprouting. That's not a good sign. Charlie was reading the story to calm her nerves from the extermination, which we learned happened last week, but it also makes no sense in this context then. She's basically reading the origins of how it all started for the audience more so than for herself. Charlie wishes to care for her kingdom of hell as her mother once did before her disappearance 7 years ago. Her emotional support character Vaggie takes her downstairs to see the poorly put together commercial Alistair made for the hotel. Yay, I love it when a series has back-to-back non-stop exposition. What is this, a sci-fi? I thought it was fantasy. The characters talk at each other. Don't you mean with each other? No, because the way they ping-pong dialogue feels like they're just stating what's happening, and it's really on the nose in this scene. They're talking in exposition. It's not a natural conversation. And then we have Angel Dust, who is very, lively, and willing to use his talents to help get more sinners into the hotel. Wow, I really wish I could tell where the adult film star personality ends and the hypersexual damaged person starts with this one. He asks why not just have Alistair force people to stay at the hotel. He flaunts his horns and we get a brief introduction to Husk and Nifty. They didn't say their names, by the way, I just know that from the pilot and wikis. And some live streams. Apparently that's how you get all your information from this damn series. Supplementary content! But casual viewers won't be aware of that stuff, aside from interviews, so we're taking everything at face value. Charlie gets a call from her dad to meet with the angel in charge of extermination in his place, and she hopes to use that meeting to convince them that her hotel could be a possible alternative for sinners. Okay, a few things. I know, I'm sorry. Literally not even like 5 minutes into the episode. But there's just, I don't want to feel like I'm nitpicking. I don't mean to nitpick, but there's just so many basic issues that it's hard not to notice. Okay, for someone with daddy issues, daddy doesn't have a problem calling her, nor does she sound all too distressed while on the phone with him. B, for what actual reason could Lucifer not want to go to the meeting? Is this a sign of bad fatherhood, perhaps? He just dumps all of his important duties onto his daughter? How awful. Or maybe it's just awkward to meet up with, like, the guy who you stole both his bitches from. Could be that too. C, Charlie is still in the phase of convincing people to stay at the hotel. She doesn't have any actual proof that it will work. Angel Dust is her only guest, and he outright admitted to thinking that the hotel is stupid and is only there for the free room. While I hate to burst her bubble, Charlie has no real foundation of the hotel being an alternative to the exterminations. She made the frosting before baking the cake. Moving on. We get a rude and awkward interruption into the first song. Like, seriously, Charlie, Vaggie was still talking. Charlie sings her way down to meet with the leader of the Angel Army. On her way there, we get to see some unsightly nooks and crannies of hell and their deranged citizens. Great use of the song to aid in visual world building, though. But I still can't tell the difference between sinners and hellborns. The song was nice and upbeat, which was a great contrast to the visuals. And at this point in the episode, it's between Charlie's meeting and Vaggie trying to make a new commercial with everyone else. The A-plot felt like it was just going in circles and barely made progress until the end. Every time it seemed like the meeting was making progress, it just went back to Adam yapping his mouth. We at least learned that Charlie and Hellborns get a pass from exterminations, which Lutz says makes her matter so little. But you would think, as the princess of hell and native Hellborns, wouldn't that actually mean that they matter more than sinners? I don't know, that was just a strange line of dialogue there. As for the B plot, which I loved so much more, Vaggie tries filming a new commercial for the hotel with everyone because getting the radio demon that's here to watch you all fuck up and fail to film your first commercial was such a great idea, now wasn't it? I like that she was working with everyone. She seems to have a decent rapport with Husk and Nifty, but gets aggravated with Angel Dust and Alistair. Naturally. The latter of which offers his services to help make a proper commercial, which he also got it to air before the news report interrupted it. I was really bummed that we didn't get to see the commercial. All that build-up and a real genuine moment beforehand of everyone on the couch ready to watch, but nah, gets cut out for a joke and to announce the news of the next extermination being in 6 months instead of a year. And the episode ends with the answer as to why they moved up the date. Someone was able to kill an angel, which apparently in all the hundreds or even thousands of years of exterminations, no one knew that was possible? Well, there goes a potential season-long mystery. The first song, while having a very awkward start, was a great showcase of hell. It's chaos, the people in there so deprived and so violent, which makes a great contrast to Charlie's naivety and optimistic views of her citizens. The second song was also really good and had a more organic start to it, but I wish it didn't come until the very end of Charlie's meeting with Adam, because for however much time they were together, he just kept talking about himself, but when Charlie finally gets a word in, and it seems like they're making progress, it just goes back to Adam talking about nonsense and his dick again. Which I guess was meant to be funny, but personally I found it to be annoying and it just dragged on the episode. The song had to function for Charlie's exposition of her project, which is like the umpteenth time we've heard it in this episode alone, and gonna keep hearing about it until the end. Adam thinks it's a joke because him and Lute are set that sinners are in hell for a reason, and there's no changing that because hell is forever, and the angels get a kick out of extermination. And to put the cherry on top, he tells her that the extermination is coming sooner. Makes me really wonder if the exterminators are humans or heavenborns. I mean, if there's hellborns, there gotta be heavenborns, right? So many questions, not enough answers in the show. But hey, that's what next season is for, what I'll be hearing all till the live long day. Okay, so getting the rundown of heaven and hell's creation, Lucifer, Adam, Lilith and Eve's quick backstory, Charlie's song, Charlie trying to convince Adam and Lute that sinners could be redeemed at her hotel, but she has no proof for yet. Alistair explaining why he's here, Adam's song, the new extermination date, and an angel's death, which feels like a lot, and I do mean like a lot for one episode that's not even a two-parter to explain and go through. I had to rewatch it a few times to understand all of what was happening, or if I even missed something. I also really didn't care for the A-plot because it was mainly Adam being a jerk to Charlie while she tries to explain the hotel to him. The meeting set a terrible start towards Charlie's goal because if Adam, the first man, who is a rude, crude, vulgar dude, is as bad as the current sinners are in hell, then that could mean that sinners would have no issue getting into heaven, right? Hell, Adam's there, why not anyone else? Especially as the first man, ergo the first soul to come into the afterlife, and from Charlie's book, he seemed to be a controlling guy who didn't respect Lilith, and here he just doesn't respect women at all. Which kinda implies that heaven's standards are even lower than hell's, somehow, because if someone like Adam can get into heaven, why not Angel Dust, or any other sinner for that matter? The bar seems to be on the fucking ground. The episode had such giant plot holes and doesn't follow its own logic, which makes analyzing the show super frustrating, but also a fun challenge of how fast I can lose my sanity. All the more reason it's better to just turn off the old thinker and just watch the pretty colors. No harm in that, I guess. It's like an edgy Tumblr version of Family Guy. See, now you're getting it. Man, I just hope that next season actually starts with a commercial that they made. Or even a new commercial, because that would be awesome. In a quicker and easier exposition way of reintroducing everyone to us. Radio killed the video star. This episode I like the most so far, but it's also the start of the increasingly snowball effect of issues I'm seeing from the rest of the series. With the extermination date being pushed up, Charlie is freaking out as well as the sinners. Vaggie and Charlie use that to try to recruit some sinners, but come back empty-handed. Kinda wish we had a quick montage of them trying to pitch the hotel and just getting rejected. Cause seriously, like, could you imagine some sinners rethinking like, maybe heaven could be a choice, but I'll spend my last few days sucking and fucking. We could have seen how Charlie and Vaggie navigated the town together, how they looked out for each other, making sure the other didn't get hurt, some casual couple stuff. Show their chemistry. And I'm not just talking about science. Angel Dust once again telling them it's still hopeless even with the time being cut in half, all while he was getting messages from his boss, Valentino. Messages that range from extremely impatient to sweet and snapping back into anger. While they're talking, a snake demon with a warhead blimp named Serpentius attacks the hotel to get Alistair's attention. He hopes to defeat him, and that by doing so, will land him in the good graces of the V's.
Wait, who are the V's?
Cut to the V's introductions. Vox controls every visual media in hell. Velvet is a fashionista that can conjure clothes. And Valentino is a pimp that runs an adult film studio. Val is throwing a bitch fit because Angel isn't returning his calls and he moved out of the studio, and he's taking it out on Velvet's workstation and models. Poor things. Vox has to be the one to calm him down, and from his demeanor, this doesn't seem like the first time Vox dealt with Val's temper tantrums. Vox tends to him like a spoiled brat who lost his favorite toy. Not really as an equal, let alone business partners, or friends with benefits. I don't know what they are. And I can see who really wears the pants in the V's. And Val's introduction was not what I was expecting. Quite the opposite. I was hoping for a combination of Total Drama World Tour's Alejandro with a dash of the Joker, a smooth-talking charmer that manipulates and abuses his workers when he doesn't get his way. But instead I get a male Stella. You know what? No. That one's on me. That's on me for having expectations in the first place. And I told myself, hey, we're not going into this with any expectations, keeping them relatively low. Keep it neutral. But no, I just had to have hope. And while I'm sure the voice actor was doing his best, the accents were all over the place in this scene. He sounded Irish, Spanish, and a bit of American. Those lines were just not good takes in my opinion. Moving on, Val tells Vox that Alistair is also at the hotel, which infuriates him because that's his rival. Huh? I don't see what's the point of fighting with an outdated media such as radio, especially since Vox is and controls objectively the superior media that is television and screens in general. Plus, Valentino said that Alistair almost beat Vox before. Therefore, Vox is better. I'm fully convinced that people only listen to Alistair's radio show is because he's threatening and nothing else. Like, come on, let's be real. Speaking of, we get a smooth transition to Stay Gone, a song that showcases Vox's stake on Hell's preferred form of entertainment, which unfortunately he has to share with Alistair, calling him a clout chaser and weak. I'm sorry, Grandpa, but where did you learn modern lingo? You know, from a man who's supposedly from, the 20s, 30s, you sure do know what tea is. And clout? You know, for characters that are from distinctive time periods, they don't really talk like they're from distinctive time periods, do they? Unfortunately not, but there's one exception. Nonetheless, the song is a banger, but I'm biased. I'm willing to admit that. I am biased. I like the Vox exclusive version better because I like Vox more than I fear Alistair. Later, the V's devise a plan to get information from the inside of the hotel to ensure Alistair doesn't make a deal with Charlie. And look who just so happens to show up at the hotel in the next scene after blasting off Team Rocket style. Serpentius! So with the snake here, Charlie puts her best efforts forward with him, and unlike Angel does, Serpy is actually putting back the effort in. Now this is what I signed up for. Sinners painstakingly playing along to Charlie's ridiculous, well-intended dream, and slowly changing over time. Gosh, I wish there was more of this in the series and less of everything else. Angel starts to feel left out and even lower when listening to the messages left from Valentino, which switches from nice to vile. On one hand, I do feel for Angel because of his situation with Val, but as Vaggie said, he doesn't make an effort to change, makes the hotel look bad, and actually harasses the staff, i.e. Husk. So having Sir P, someone who actually wants to change, even if it's revealed to be a lie later, is a nice change of pace for them. While I'd rather we have seen Angel brushing off the rehabilitation and show him making the hotel look bad, he usually has an attitude anyway and doesn't willingly partake in the exercises. Plus, literally, in episode 1, prior to this episode, he doesn't think that the hotel would work and is only there for the free room. So unless he's done some secret off-screen bonding with the rest of the cast that the audience doesn't know about, or maybe it's somewhere in a live stream, then he has no right to sulk that Sir P is getting all the attention. Although, I will say, he does have every right to feel offended at Charlie's script and implying that premarital intercourse is a heavenly trait considering his line of work and casting him as the crack addict. Oh, we taking pot shots now, Charlie? Damn, tell us how you really feel. Gotta love the nice girl being passive-aggressive. Later, when they all go to bed, Angel finds out that Sir P is a traitor, and when Vox doesn't come to save him, Charlie takes this as an opportunity for him to grow and apologize, which gives us another excellent song transition. It starts with Sorry. It's okay, and very on brand for the scene. It's cute, quick, puts a nice bow on top of the episode, and admittedly, fun to sing to. In the end, Sir Pentius is staying at the hotel for good, and will be on the path to redemption. So far, I like this episode the most because it's a lot simpler yet crammed in 4 characters, but at least they're all connected to the core cast. Valentino is Angel's overbearing boss, Vox is Alistair's self-appointed rival, and Velvet, at least Sir Pentius served a purpose and got to join the cast. The ever-expanding cast. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm bummed out that the concept of there being a spy at the hotel would have been a great few episodes, but sadly it had to get resolved in the episode it gets introduced in. I really wish we had more episodes to explore that. Charlie is excited that Sir Pentius is staying at the hotel and hasn't caused any trouble, and of course in the next scene, he is wheeling in more deadly machines and accepting weapons bought from Carmilla Carmine. Okay, him being on edge and worried that everyone in the hotel wants to kill him makes no sense considering he betrayed them and apologized for it last episode. Apparently, everyone being too nice was enough to set him off. But I don't see how Husk and Angel flipping him off is exactly being nice and welcoming. Plus, who could say no to Nifty's smile? But whatever, we needed a catalyst for this episode to get started, so here we are. Vaggie orders Alistair to get rid of Sir P's egg boys while he's out, and Charlie spends the day wanting the gang to focus on trust exercises, enlisting Vaggie to guide them. You know, for a couple that's been together for 3 years now, these two are very much out of sync, which is strange to me. Gotta say, I don't like Charlie's reasoning for putting Vaggie in charge of the trust exercise when she clearly gets annoyed by everyone else in the hotel, and since Charlie already trusts everyone, wouldn't it be best that she leads them? Charlie just puts Vaggie on the spot for this one, and it didn't sit right with me. Although I did like the trust fall exercises, though they moved on from it too quickly, and into the next activity that Angel suggests to help them further bond. Meanwhile, over with the B-plot, Alistair is stuck with the Egg Boys while he attends a meeting with other overlords to discuss what to do about the next extermination. Alistair acts like his disappearance was such a big deal, and Carmilla is like, "Oh, you were gone? Didn't notice. But welcome back, I guess." Yes! I loved it! Put that attention whore in his place! The overlords are concerned about the rate of the amount of souls they're losing, which I think Carmilla was going to further explain why that's an issue, how it affects them and their roles in hell, but Velvet rudely came bursting in, just not giving a darn, and drops the bombshell that angels can be killed by presenting the angel head. Her and the V's would be more than eager to go to war with heaven to topple their power, but the other overlords protest this in order to avoid an all-out assault onto hell. We get the best song of the series, hands down, yet it had an awfully awkward start. And for as much as I love Respectless, it's just a song going over what the previous scene did. Velvet showing no respect, Carmilla being fed up with her, presenting the angel's head and encouraging the overlords to go to war with heaven, and suspecting that Carmilla, hell's greatest and assumably only arms dealer of angelic weaponry, knows more than she's letting on. Honestly, the whole meeting could have just been a whole musical number in and of itself instead of this constant backtracking and repetition of information and lack of mystery building. Back to the A-plot, Angel Dust offers a different kind of bonding for the group to build trust. The joke fell flat for me. But Nifty was great, really in her element. But Vaggie disapproves and takes them someplace akin to where she learned about trust. A damn turf war! Now you see, this is the part where I question if the pilot is canon or not, because Pilot Vaggie was rightfully upset with Angel Dust partaking in a turf war because it made the hotel look bad, and now Series Vaggie is more than willing to throw them into the fray of combat. I'm taking the pilot with a grain of salt here because either way, it doesn't make sense. While the boys are getting torn apart, Vaggie feels like she's been failing Charlie all day, that she's completely pointless if she can't help make her dreams come true and protect her. And while I understand Vaggie is upset, all of that extra baggage just comes straight out of left field considering, as Charlie says, she does so much. So much off screen, but so much nonetheless. And all she ever does is for Charlie that you think that it's her job. This scene really could have had more weight to it if Charlie would just question Vaggie of why you feel the need to throw yourself completely into me and have no other hobby aside from me. But hey, that's just my question. That's my inquiry. That's a very toxic codependency right there for Vaggie. Back to Carmilla, who totally slayed the angel but doesn't want the news to get out in fear of spreading more carnage. The second song had a better transition, but we just met Carmilla, and at this point all I know about her is that she's an arms dealer and a parent. Her duet with Vaggie, their parallel of these Latina women wanting to keep their loved ones safe and willing to sacrifice themselves to do it, doesn't feel earned to me. I barely know anything about Carmilla, and even less about Vaggie somehow, beyond their undying love and loyalty to their loved ones. So the power ballad here, while pretty and the instrumental is destroying their voices, it's just an audio balance thing, or my hearing sensitivity, feels very shallow. Later, it turns out Vaggie's exercises actually had them bonding. Really wish we could have seen that and how they actually were treating each other instead of hearing about the aftermath off screen again and again. Despite a few hiccups along the way, it was a successful day at the hotel, although I'd prefer if Charlie and Vaggie were running the exercises together instead of separately. Charlie did try to help a few times, but because she put her trust in her partner, Vaggie wanted to prove that she could handle it. But if they ran the exercises together, not only would it have gone smoother, but we'd see more of their chemistry. How Charlie and Vaggie work off of each other's ideas, compromise on activities, encourage the guests and each other throughout the day, show them getting frustrated with each other or working through an issue. I think this is the problem most people have when it comes to this couple, their lack of chemistry. Because so far, it's just been a one-sided admiration from Vaggie, who also drops the most pet names, might I add. I don't think Charlie calls Vaggie anything other than her name. I'm sure she called her partner in like episode 6. Other than that, I have no other frame of reference.
This is Vaggie. She's my girlfriend.
Charlie's focus on the hotel also overshadows her relationship with not just Vaggie, but the others in my opinion. Because outside of Vaggie, Angel Dust, and Alistair, what would you describe her dynamic is with Husk and Nifty? She barely talks to them or interacts with them, aside from being afraid of Nifty and just constantly introducing new people to Husk. I just can't see them in a room talking to each other about anything, or see them in a room doing anything at all. As for Vaggie, the brief moment that the couple had in the end was sweet. Yes, more of that please, talking through your issues, showing you care for each other. They don't need to be sucking lips 24/7, just mutual affection is enough. Now personally, my headcanon is that they partake in premarital activities, since that seems to be such a heavenly value to Charlie. My takeaways from this episode: I really liked Zestel, mainly because he has the most unique voice in all of the Helliverse, and his design, while plain, I think was intentional. Speaking with a Shakespearean vibrato was an unexpected delight to me and heavily implies that he's one of the oldest overlords in hell, if not the oldest person in hell. Him also lacking the abundance of pointless stripes and detailing like the other characters made him visually stand out more with his clear spider motif. Looking at you, Angel Dust, who's a quote-unquote spider. Yeah, sure. And Stitch is a spider too, just because you have retractable arms. Despite having a small role, I also did enjoy Carmilla. She's hot. Great choice in a VA, and the singing was divine. Although I found it very confusing as to why an arms dealer wishes to avoid spilling blood, yet sends her own daughters on the front line to deliver her weapons. Oversights have been made, and I will not stop pointing them out. Case being, why didn't the overlords think to work with Charlie, Princess of Hell, on what to do about the extermination? Oh, you mean aside from every time Charlie talks to heaven, things get progressively worse? Okay, touche. But why didn't Alistair speak about the hotel, or at least pitch it as an option? I can imagine losing souls, either by an angel's blade or redemption, wouldn't be ideal for overlords. Between all of them, they have 1,000,000 souls, so no wonder hell is overcrowded. But for what purpose are these souls to them? Foot soldiers? Servants? Adult movie stars? Well, I guess it just depends on the overlord that owns them, and that's what their given purpose will be, as they serve to make hell somewhat functionable, like some sort of shadow government. Well, Lucifer sure isn't doing anything about it, so someone has to keep the Pride Ring functioning. Between this episode and the last, I really wish the show kept its original premise to redeem sinners, because watching, or I should say hearing, how the gang is bonding so far is far more engaging and does wonders for character growth, in my opinion, at least. Trigger warning for Masquerade in this section of the video. If you wish to skip ahead, I wouldn't blame you. Prioritize your mental health and assess your comfort levels accordingly. And before moving forward, I'd like to make some things clear. For the survivors and or victims that feel seen and related to this episode, you're valid. For the survivors and or victims that felt disrespected and disgusted by this episode, you're valid. To the people whacking it or flicking the bean to this episode, keep your fetishes at the door or gladly get out. And with that being said, let's talk about Masquerade. Angel shows one of his adult films to the group as a part of their show and tell exercise. He seems to be very proud of the production and even won an award for his performance. But Husk is swift to call out his bull and how fake the scenario is. Matter of fact, Kitty Bartender here calls out everyone's ordeal, instead of, letting the audience think for themselves and analyze the characters based on watching the show. Whatever, I needed my hand held during this episode anyway. Except for Nifty. He calls out everyone but my little gal over here. She remains a mystery. It's ironic that today's exercise was show and tell, but this episode in particular is the most polarizing when it decides to tell or show the given subject matter of the episode, by either showing too much, telling not enough, or vice versa. Angel gets an uncomfortable callback to the studio from his boss. Vaggie encourages Charlie to use her authority to aggressively kindly ask his boss to allow more time for Angel to be at the hotel. Oh, and while we're on that note, Charlie not utilizing her title as Princess of Hell does irk me, because while I understand she doesn't want to be mean or bossy, no one takes her seriously as a leader. She holds some authority and would definitely be more powerful than the overlords, so using that to her benefit to at least collaborate with the powerful demons in helping the hotel would be a big help to her cause. Charlie is far too nice and naive for her own good, which is saying something considering she was born and raised in hell, and she doesn't progress much past this by the end of the first season. She must have been heavily sheltered as a child, because good gravy, how are you born and raised in a place like this and don't realize how awful your people can be? It's okay to have hope for them, but jeez, admit they're terrible at least. Exactly, which is why Charlie needs a firmer hand, especially when she was dealing with Valentino. Angel tries his best in a panic to get Charlie out of there, but Valentino catches wind of her. Oh, it's so gross how Val licks Charlie's arm. Like, does status mean nothing to anyone in hell? Charlie isn't just some random sinner trying to get Angel Dust out of work to save him. She's the damn princess, yet no one acts like she is. Her status not being acknowledged seems like a waste to have in the first place. If people don't treat her with an ounce of respect, and if Charlie actually used that authority, she could have left with Angel, leaving Val in his studio in a blaze of glory. I understand what the scene was going for, but if it was anyone else but Charlie, say if it was Cherry Bomb, Vaggie, or even Husk trying to help Angel, them being shooed off and afraid of Valentino's power would make more sense, because he's an overlord and they're lowly sinners with no real power. Charlie is above overlords, rank and power-wise, assumably. If she had a freaking backbone or acknowledged her authority, this would have been a far different scene, showing how Val would appease and even manage to trick her into believing that Angel is fine where he is, getting her to leave and showcasing that suave manipulator personality one would have to coerce sinners into signing deals with him in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. Charlie accidentally starts a fire and Val takes it out on Angel. The scene in the dressing room is the most emotionally intense scene of the series. It gets the message clearly across that Angel is not in a good situation with Valentino. He owns his soul and can make Angel work for as long as he wants, among other things, unfortunately. It's toxic and abusive, plain and simple, which is the unfortunate reality for some people working in similar industries. But are we sure that this Valentino is the same we first saw in episode 2? Feels like a double swapped him out or something. Angel yells at Charlie to get her to leave, and once Val gets his way, we get a great transition into the first song of the episode, Poison. which carries its own fair share of controversy. And as mentioned in the trigger warning, you have every right to feel and interpret these scenes as you seem fit or relate to your personal issues. Though I will say the interchangeable cuts of Angel Dust looking all glitz and glam on the surface, but beneath it all, displaying the doubts and pain of being in this industry, communicated a surface level of understanding it. At least to me. I have no personal experience of an industry myself, but from the music video, it was just barely scratching the surface. However, his assault from Val, in my opinion, didn't need to be shown. It's already heavily implied and shown that Val treats Angel very poorly, especially if he steps out of line. It's just putting a hat on top of a hat at this point. And I don't say this because, oh, I'm a prude. Nah, I'm the most nastiest looted mouth ace you could ever find in this place. But I just say so because it just seemed like gross overkill. Because as a general audience, we can already assume and get a feel that behind the scenes stuff like that is not always consensual. So it's heavily implied that Valentino does not care about consent, especially when he's dealing with his workers, and especially when it comes to Angel Dust. But that's just me, my opinion. In cases of discussing SA, especially for male victims who so rarely get to have their voices heard, I'd rather the story focus on how it affects the character and how they cope with the aftermath of it. In my opinion, it just didn't need to be seen, especially when there were other scenes of Angel doing it with several other men as a part of his job. Wearing a fake smile versus when he's forced to do it with Val is already implied just by the nature of the industry he's in. But the ending of the song really sold how broken he feels about it all. It's tragic, and it was a beautiful performance at the end. Valentino constantly has Angel Dust drugged, and on top of the countless hours he works, it most likely has permanently altered his brain chemistry and body's natural reaction to similar stimulation. There's different ways of interpreting media. That's what media literacy is for. Some people will say that Angel actually enjoys the sex he is having with Val and take note of him smiling as proof of this, while I interpret it more so of Angel putting on a brave face for the cameras and his boss until it's all done and he can retreat to the somewhat safety of his dressing room to let out his exhaustion and frustration of the harsh reality he's going through. Although I would not encourage people to think about the former, because why the heck would Angel just love being in this kind of a lifestyle with Valentino of all people? Val and Angel shippers, I swear, I don't understand it. Exhausted, Angel returns to the hotel, puts up his facade once again, and invades Husk's boundaries. He calls him out on it, and that he's fake, causing Angel to spiral about how much he's worth, and he storms out. This is another great scene, in my opinion. We can see the distress on Angel's face and the way he brags about how others would be lucky to get with him. It's something that's been ingrained into him, and valuing his worth through how attractive he is, his sex appeal, and nothing more. He derives his self-worth from explaining his hypersexual nature. Between this and the dressing room scene, by far the best scenes that feel like they're actually focusing on Angel's dilemma, but it sort of peters out from here. Vaggie guilts Husk to go after Angel, but Charlie doesn't want to force him back to the hotel, just to make sure he's safe. Angel is out at a bar, drinking and getting high with a bunch of loan sharks, which I question if they are sinners or hellborns, because in Hell of a Boss there are loan sharks in the greed ring, but whatever, world building is already shattered enough in this universe. When Husk noticed that one of the sharks tried to spike Angel's drink, he goes on the attack and gets them out of there using playing cards as projectile weapons that slice their guns. Wow! Since when does a bartender have sharp-ass cards? These next scenes do a great deal of telling, such as Angel self-destructing until he's broken enough so Val won't want him anymore. Okay, sure, but what I'm confused about is that Angel Dust says that this place is his escape and where he doesn't have to think about his pain. So his coping method from being drugged up and having sex with randos is to get drugged up and have sex with randos? Am I understanding that correctly? I'm not afraid to go out on a limb and say, I don't get it, I don't understand. If someone else can explain it to me, please do. And don't be a dick about it, okay? Not everyone understands things on the first couple of watches. That's what media literacy is for. Trying to gain a better understanding as to what's happening. Yeah, it's brave to admit when you know stuff, but even more braver to admit, I don't understand what's happening. Let's discuss it as a community. What the fuck does he mean by that? Because I genuinely do not understand. Okay, because I know this is a me thing, because I don't understand how Angel is essentially doing the same stuff at work as his escape from what he deals with at work. Valentino especially. He's just digging himself into a deeper hole that will damage him, and since that's his goal, he'll definitely get there, but it's obviously not a healthy way for him to cope.
I was an overlord once, you know.
Oh my gosh, Husk, now is not the time to make it about you. Him being an overlord raises so many more questions, but whatever. So Husk was once an overlord. That should feel like a massive bomb drop, but the series seems to pick and choose whose title seems to matter, or even when it matters, so who cares? But I get it, he only said so to relate to Angel and understand where he's coming from. It genuinely sucks that they're both owned by demons more powerful than them and who control their autonomy, but I wouldn't say it's a one-to-one situation. Otherwise, are we meant to view Alistair as bad as Valentino? Because last time I checked, Alistair doesn't force himself onto Husk, or Nifty for that matter. He doesn't make Husk have sex with strangers, nor does he keep him drugged up. At most of what we've seen, because I'm not going by the damn wikis, I'm not going by the damn live streams, gosh darn it, Al forces Husk and Nifty to work at the hotel, where they're under a roof, fed, clothed, and Husk has access to all the alcohol he wants. It's not ideal for a recovering or somewhat functioning alcoholic, because Husk is still owned by a powerful maniac, but even he gets away with talking back to Alistair unless bringing up a touchy subject. If anything, Alistair seems to take better care of his slaves than Valentino does. And yet we don't know how Angel lost his soul to Valentino. Husk lost his soul to Alistair because his gambling had gotten out of hand, and it was the only way to save his own skin. And for an episode that's meant to focus on Angel's problems, his work, his damage, we don't get an answer as to where he was before Valentino. And I really don't want to hear, well, that's what season 2 was for. Why wait a whole season later when it's the focal point of this episode? Because say if Angel was in hell for some time, lost and scared, barely getting by, Valentino could have saved him, quote unquote, by owning his soul, but it didn't work out in the long term for Angel Dust. Did Val smooth talk or convince Angel that he could make him a star, similar to how he did in that club episode later? Promising fame, riches, and safety, only for it to come at a heavy price later at his bodily autonomy. I could go on, but you get the point. Not knowing where Angel's origins stem from prior to Valentino, like they did for Husk to Alistair, I can't say for certain if Angel is the way he is because he's been owned by Val, or was he always somewhat of a degenerate and that side of him has become actualized since being with Valentino. You see what I'm getting at here? The different directions and avenues that could have led down an insightful, nuanced exploration for a character like Angel Dust are endless. In Poison, he constantly blames himself for being in this situation with Val, and I think that could have been explored deeper. Was it actually his fault, or was he tricked and he just blames himself? Is it Stockholm Syndrome? Who knows? I don't care what wikis say, it's not in the damn show. So from the perspective of the general audience, they don't know. Which leads us to the next song, Loser Baby, which is Husk basically telling Angel, hey, it sucks that your soul is owned by an overlord maniac that mistreats you, but I'm right there with you, pal. I'm in the same boat as you with my overlord boss. Which, again, not a fair one-to-one comparison. Rather, Angel should be seeking comfort from his fellow workers and those owned by Valentino. Perhaps start a union together, now that's comforting. Or maybe because Angel is Val's biggest cash cow, all of the other workers are jealous or don't interact with him, making Angel feel even more isolated amongst his peers. Ooh, I love it! I need the fanfic on my desk by Monday, stat! Angel being a up fucking is not okay to be if he's forced to be that way because of Valentino. Now, unless he wants to be that, sure, let that be his small glimpse of control of his situation, but it shouldn't be long term. That's what's destroying him in the first place. But I'd say Husk is far more of a loser than Angel is. Speaking as someone from the city of lost wages, I've seen firsthand what gambling does to someone, and getting stuck in that rut can seriously hurt them in the long run. After the song, the sharks come after them, there's a quick shootout, and everyone is okay in the end. Angel proves to be good at more than just sex. He's also great at violence, which for some characters in this world is not a unique combo as you think it is, honey. Husk and Angel are on better terms, which is great and hopefully also means less sexual harassment jokes towards Husk. Serpentius, on the other hand, oh, and Charlie, sweetie, you're walking the very fine line from adorable to irritating. Fast. This episode was a lot for so many other reasons, but it was a nice break from the non-mysterious mystery regarding the headless angel that the last three were building up towards. As the first resident of the Hazbin Hotel, I wish this episode had come sooner for Angel Dust. He's stuck in a deal with Valentino, but I'm curious as to how he got there in the first place. He's been in hell for a while now, so knowing when and why he sold his soul to Valentino would make this episode all the more impactful. Just like I mentioned earlier, was Angel tricked into signing the deal? Did Valentino manipulate him? Did he make Angel dependent on being a somebody, or did he use drugs? Questions that could have been answered or played with if we didn't get Husk's backstory here. I understand that it was done to bond with Angel, but him having once been an overlord and losing everything and having to sell his soul to Alistair, aside from, hey, we're both owned by overlords, it's not relevant and it's not a one-to-one, and Alistair is not as bad as Valentino. This episode in particular took me a long time to digest, and I feel as though I'm still taking it all in. Phrasing. It was also the first episode that didn't introduce more new faces, and the first and only 18+ rated episode of season 1. The rest are 16+. One more thing, did anyone else notice that this was the first episode without Alistair actively in it? I almost didn't notice, but looking back, yeah, he's nowhere to be seen or even mentioned aside from Husk's story. That's wonderful, because not every character needs to be present for something to happen, especially if they're a camera-mugging, scary goofball, which sadly didn't last too long. With this episode, I can understand why people would question the authenticity and being genuine towards victims and survivors, considering the episode had a certain storyboard artist work on it. Raphael, credited as Ariel, has been accused of fetishizing Angel Dust and Valentino, and at the time of recording, has recently gotten to sex work themselves, which is valid work, but cosplays and presents themselves similar to Angel Dust and goes by Tony. Angel's real name is Anthony, and Tony is a common shorthand nickname for that name. Viv also tried defending their actions by claiming that they're an SA survivor, which was later contradicted with a tweet of them saying clear and plain as day that they are not, which is also kind of a lot, and why most fans question the choices made in this episode, and if it was intended to take the topic seriously, or if an artist got to sneak in some scenes for their own private collection. Some people have noticed the similarities to an animatic the storyboard artist did for fun. It was similar, akin to the dance sequence to Poison, as well as the dialogue in the dressing room scene, which was similar dialogue to their mini fan comic of Angel Dust and Valentino. Not gonna lie, I can understand why some people would kind of look at this episode and look at the artist's history and question it, why they would look sideways, why there's some second glances. I want to believe that they want to be genuine and take a serious matter like male victims especially seriously, but I don't know, man, compared to how Hell of a Boss handles some sensitive topics, you start to see a pattern in Viv's work that they don't really take serious stuff seriously, or they make it cartoonishly villainous. I don't know, I'm just gonna leave it at that.